What kind of sequel is Neon Abyss 2? It's a kind of sequel that doesn't deviate too far from the original formula that fans loved in the first place, improve upon what already exists, use feedback and criticisms from Neon Abyss to implement changes, and increase the quantity across the board, and then increase quantity again. Before jumping in, we just want to take a few seconds out of your day. If at the end of the video you enjoyed it, subscribe and see more like it. Video games is a positivity first outlet, so let's start with the positives about this game. The combat still feels extremely precise, there is still a mind-boggling amount of combinations, and credit to Vivo for taking feedback and implementing a lot of changes. Neon Abyss 2 lands in early access today, but unlike most early access titles, Neon Abyss 2 doesn't feel unfinished or incomplete. As a matter of fact, it already features more levels, enemies, characters, and bosses than the original. In addition to that, it's also launching with up to 4-player co-op, as well as refinements and new additions. Review codes for Neon Abyss 2 only came in a few days prior to the early access launch, but after close to 10 hours solo, we feel we can make a good assessment of Neon Abyss 2, especially considering that the story in Neon Abyss 1 could be completed in a similar time frame. However, the original wasn't really focused on telling a compelling story, and Neon Abyss 2 isn't either. There is a morsel of story here, but the selling point is the action platforming run and gun and the potential for each run to have busted builds. Just like the original, Neon Abyss 2 is loaded with plenty of pop culture references drawn from a very wide swath, including Jason from Friday the 13th, Jigsaw, John Wick, and even a mini-boss modeled after Labubu. Neon Abyss 2 is a lot more of the same. The visuals received a pretty massive overhaul, there is more close-range weapons, bosses no longer have fixed patterns, and as mentioned, there is now up to 4-player co-op. These are direct fixes based on feedback from the original. Unfortunately, not everything has been remedied at the launch of early access. Neon Abyss 2 still has a pretty large emphasis on RNG and procedurally generated dungeons, which means that experiences are going to be wildly different from run to run. However, they did try to improve this with one big addition, which is the faith system, and they try to give the character more control over each run. The big issue is that you still need to earn faith from playing. It's very similar to another skill tree, which you need to work your way through it. This means that for new players, you're still going to be at the mercy of randomness, which might push people away before they're able to regain some of that control over their destiny through the faith system. Variety is still a slight issue, as even though there are more bosses at the launch of early access, you have to fight a lot of the same fodder and mini-bosses. I have fought the social media god and the pachinko god too many times to count already, and just like the first, I still don't fully grasp the Hachimon system. There are still a lot of criticism that linger from Neon Abyss, but considering how much feedback was applied into the development of Neon Abyss 2 and how many sharp edges have been polished down, fans should rest assured that the early access period will prove to be fruitful. Neon Abyss 2 is a huge step in the right direction for the series, and this is just the beginning of early access. Let me know in the comments below what you think is the best action roguelike out there. That's all for today, but until next time, be good to your fellow gamer, but more importantly, be better to your fellow human.